A few years ago, I rented a basement apartment beneath an older couple's house on the edge of a quiet neighborhood. It had its own entrance around the back, down a short set of concrete steps, and from the front, it barely looked like anyone even lived there. I liked that. I was working night shifts at the time, so during the day I slept, and at night I was usually either at work or home alone. The neighborhood was calm, mostly families and retirees, and nothing strange had ever happened there before this. The first time I noticed him, I was coming home just after midnight. As I turned into the driveway, my headlights swept across the side of the house and caught someone standing near the fence that separated the backyard from the alley. He was just standing there, not moving. For a second, I thought maybe he was one of the neighbors smoking or waiting for someone. But when my lights hit him, he turned his head and walked quickly into the dark alley behind the house. It was weird, but not enough to call the police. I went inside, locked the door, and told myself he was probably just cutting through the yard. The next evening, I had the night off. Around 10:30, while I was in the kitchen making food, I heard a knock at my door. It was 3 slow knocks, spaced apart in a way that immediately made me stop what I was doing. Nobody ever came over unannounced, especially not that late. I walked over and looked through the peephole, but all I could see was the concrete stairwell in darkness. No one was there. I waited for a few seconds, thinking maybe it was one of the owners upstairs needing something, but then I heard the same 3 knocks again. This time, they came from the small ground-level window beside my living room. I froze. That window looked out toward the bottom of the stairs near my entrance. Someone would have had to come all the way down to stand right next to it. I turned off the kitchen light and moved quietly into the living room. I didn't get close enough to look out. I just stood there, listening. After about a minute, I heard footsteps going back up the stairs. The next morning, I told the couple upstairs what happened. The husband checked outside and found muddy footprints on the concrete near my window. He told me it was probably kids messing around, but he also seemed uneasy when he said it. For the next 2 nights, nothing happened. Then, on the 4th night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to a sound directly above me. At first, I thought it was the owners moving around upstairs, but then I realized it wasn't coming from their floor. It was coming from the small basement window near my bed. Tap, tap, tap. Not loud, not aggressive, just light, deliberate tapping on the glass. I sat up and stared at the dark outline of the curtains. The tapping came again, and then stopped. I grabbed my phone and checked the time, hoping I was imagining it from being half asleep. But then I heard breathing, very faint, right outside the window. I got out of bed and backed into the hallway without turning any lights on. I didn't want whoever was out there to know exactly where I was standing. I was about to call the police when I heard something that made my blood run cold. A whisper. "Open the door." I couldn't move. A few seconds later, the whisper came again, a little louder this time. "I know you're in there." I locked myself in the bathroom and called 911. While I was whispering my address to the dispatcher, I heard footsteps moving away from the bedroom window. Then I heard them at the entrance door. The handle turned once, then again, slower. Whoever it was had tested the window first, then moved to the door. The dispatcher told me officers were on the way and to stay where I was. For about 20 seconds, everything went silent. Then there was one hard bang against the door, like someone had thrown their shoulder into it. I actually thought it was about to give way. Then, just as suddenly, it stopped. When police arrived, they searched the yard and alley but didn't find anyone. What they did find were fresh scratches around the lock on my door and the shoe print pressed into the flower bed beside the bedroom window. One of the officers asked if I noticed anyone around recently, and I told him about the man by the fence a few nights earlier. 2 days later, the owners installed motion lights and the camera facing the back steps. The very next night, the camera caught him. It was the same man I'd seen by the alley. He came down the stairs just after 1 a.m. and stood outside my door for nearly 4 minutes without knocking. He just stood there, facing it, completely still. Then he turned and looked directly into the camera before walking back up the stairs. Police arrested him a week later after he was caught trying to enter another basement apartment in a nearby neighborhood. I moved out less than a month after that. Even now, I hate basement apartments, and whenever I hear a knock late at night, I don't go near the door. Because some people don't knock to be let in. They knock to make sure you're there.